Chapter 1. The Stranger in the Night. The sky was heavy with late autumn clouds. Drizzle drifted down endlessly, each drop like a frozen thread. Lamb, a young man of 25, his skin bronzed from long journeys, a heavy backpack pressing on his shoulders, rode alone through the winding mountain road. He had long grown used to solitude, but tonight felt different. The narrow road twisted endlessly. His phone showed only a blank map. The signal lost hours ago. Only the howling wind through the cliffs and the hiss of wet tires kept him company. He muttered to himself, "I need to find shelter, it's dangerous to keep going like this." Just then, the beam of his headlamp swept across something strange, a wooden gate. Half collapsed, its stone pillars crooked and wrapped in moss. A broken board dangled precariously, streaked with faded red paint. Whatever words had once been written there had long been devoured by time. Beyond the gate stretched a dirt path, leading downward into a village shrouded in mist. The fog churned and curled, rolling across the ground like smoke. In the shifting white, Lamb thought he saw the shapes of pale hands reaching outward, as though urging him inside. A chill rippled through his chest, yet rain lashed down harder, soaking him to the bone. The mountain road behind lay black as ink. With no other choice, he turned his steps toward the gate and entered the village. Dash dash dash. The village lay in silence. Houses leaned precariously, roofs broken, shutters closed tight. No dogs barked, no chickens crowed, no voices stirred, only the steady patter of rain on rusting tin roofs and the creak of doors swaying in the wind. Each of Lamb's footsteps echoed unnaturally loud against the shattered brick path. He stopped before one house, rapped his knuckles against the swollen wood. Knock, knock, knock. The sound rang hollow, spreading through the silent village. No answer. He tried again at another door, then another, but each remained tightly shut, mute and unyielding. His heartbeat quickened. A thought clawed at him. Is this a dead village? A place for the dead? Dash dash dash. Then, at the end of a narrow alley, a door creaked open. A figure stood in the threshold, a bent old woman, her tangled white hair falling over her face. Her eyes were pale, clouded like milky glass. Though rain and wind whipped around her, she stood motionless, staring directly at him. Relief surged through Lamb. He hurried forward, bowing slightly. "Grandmother, I've lost my way. The rain is heavy. Could I perhaps stay for the night?" The woman was silent for a long time. Her lips trembled. When she spoke, her voice rasped low and brittle, like the groan of an old tree. "You should not be here, not after midnight." Lamb froze, shivering at the weight of her words. Before he could reply, she turned away. Then, with a hand shaking as if from fear itself, she pointed down the street, toward a house half hidden in the mist. Its walls were scarred black, as though scorched by fire. Her whisper carried through the storm. "Stay there, but remember, do not look into the mirror. And never answer when someone calls your name." The door slammed shut behind her. The hollow thud echoed through the empty streets, like the lid of a coffin ceiling closed. Lamb stood in the rain, trembling. Then, gathering what courage he had left, he adjusted the straps of his backpack and walked toward the shadowy house that seemed to wait for him at the end of the mist. Through the fog, it loomed dark and silent, like a gaping mouth, eager to swallow the fool who dared to step inside. Chapter 2. The Abandoned House. The house emerged faintly through the fog. A hulking shadow crouched in silence. Its wooden walls were scorched with black scars. The roof sagged. Wild weeds clutched its base. It looked less like a dwelling and more like a carcass, abandoned after the fire had devoured its flesh. The door was ajar. Wind whistled through the gap, producing a low moan like someone whispering from within. Lamb stood at the threshold, his hand brushing against the damp, icy wood. The old woman's warning echoed in his mind. "Do not look into the mirror. Do not answer when they call your name." He drew a long breath and pushed the door. Kriak. A wave of stale, suffocating air rolled over him, the stench of mold, smoke, and rotting wood. He gagged but forced himself inside. His flashlight sliced through the dark, a pale cone of yellow. Dash dash dash. The living room was chaos frozen in time. A table with one broken leg leaned sideways. Chairs scattered. A wardrobe gnawed by rot. Blackened scorch marks scarred the walls, forming grotesque shapes that looked disturbingly like faces screaming in agony. Then his light fell on it, a large mirror leaning against the far wall. Its surface split by jagged cracks. Dust dulled the reflection, but faintly. He saw himself, except, not quite. His body moved, but the figure in the mirror did not. It only stared at him with blank, hollow eyes. A chill surged down his spine. He tore his gaze away, heart hammering, and stumbled toward the hallway. Along the corridor hung old photographs. Their frames cracked, edges charred, faces blurred by time and smoke stared from them. One picture showed a family, father, mother, and a little girl in the center. But as the light flickered, the girl's face seemed to twist, her smile stretching grotesquely, lips pulling unnaturally wide. Wind rattled the broken shutters. The photo slipped from the wall, crashing onto the floor. The glass shattered with a shrill chime that rang through the hollow house. "Damn it," Lamb muttered, his voice trembling. He forced himself onward, choosing the nearest room. It was nearly empty. A rusted bed frame leaned against one wall. Burnt wood fragments scattered on the floor. He spread his sleeping bag on the ground, using his jacket as a pillow. The flashlight glowed weakly from the corner, casting jagged shadows across the cracked ceiling. Outside, rain pattered steadily, blending with the wind's hollow moans through every gap. Lamb curled tightly in his bag, willing sleep to come, but instead, he heard it, the sound. At first, faint creaks, like footsteps, slow and deliberate, pacing above him. On the attic floor, he held his breath, eyes darting upward. The ceiling beams groaned under invisible weight. Then silence. The absence of sound was even worse. A suffocating stillness that made his ears ring. Suddenly, Lamb. The voice was faint, almost a whisper, yet it pierced him like a knife. His blood ran cold. He hadn't spoken his name to anyone here. Who, or what, could know it? He remembered the warning. Do not answer when they call your name. Sweat broke across his skin. He clutched the rosary tight, whispering to himself, Don't answer, don't answer. But the voice returned, closer, almost brushing his ear. Lamb, open the door for me. His flashlight quivered in his hand as he swung it toward the door. The beam cut through the dark. Nothing, just the warped wooden door, closed tight. Yet the voice lingered. The knocking began again, soft, patient, endless. Lamb pulled the blanket over his head, trembling violently, every nerve screaming. Outside, the voice called again and again, weaving through the rain. That night stretched longer than any in his life. Chapter 3: The knocking beneath the floor. The darkness pressed in heavy and suffocating. Lamb lay curled in his sleeping bag, heart thundering in his chest. The voice had faded, but silence was no comfort. Silence only meant it was waiting. The rain outside whispered steadily, each drop like a fingernail scratching across the roof. When he finally dared to lower the blanket and glance out, the flashlight in the corner was dimming, its yellow glow trembling, threatening to die at any moment. In the quivering shadows, the darkness seemed alive, inching closer, pressing against him. Then it came. Knock, knock, knock. The sound was sharp, hollow, echoing up from beneath the floorboards, right next to his sleeping bag. Lamb bolted upright, every muscle stiff, his eyes locked on the rotting planks. The gaps between them yawned black, like the open mouth of a pit. He swallowed hard, whispering to himself, mice, or wind, that's all. But again, bang, 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 3 heavy thuds that rattled the boards, shaking dust loose from the rafters. The floor quivered beneath him as though something below was struggling to break free. Hands trembling, he snatched the flashlight, aimed the beam into the gap, and froze. From the darkness beneath the floor, a pair of eyes stared back at him, wide, lidless, pure white. They glared up at him, unblinking, like the gaze of the dead. Lamb shrieked, stumbling backward. The flashlight clattered across the floor, its beam spinning wildly over the walls. When he grabbed it again and shone it back down, the eyes were gone, only emptiness remained. He tried to steady his breath. But then, knock, knock, knock. This time, not just beneath him. The sound came from everywhere, walls, ceiling, even the rotting bedframe. A relentless rhythm, a pounding funeral drum that filled the room. His ears rang, his heartbeat lost itself in the cadence. Then came the voice, high-pitched, fragile, echoing like a child whispering from the grave. Play with me, play with me. The floorboards cracked with a deafening crash. A plank near him split apart, fragments flying, smoke rising from the black hole beneath. A hand clawed out, blackened, skin peeling, nails jagged and long. It gripped the wood, dragging itself upward. A child's giggle, warped and chilling, echoed all around him. Found you. Dash dash dash. Lamb screamed, scrambling toward the door. He yanked the handle, but the swollen wood slammed shut, unmoving no matter how hard he pulled. The knocking grew frantic, the scratching of nails, the distorted laughter, the pounding from all sides, closing in. The flashlight flickered violently, for a heartbeat. The light flashed across the walls and ceiling, revealing faces. Dozens, hundreds, white, blistered faces with grins split too wide. Eyes blank, staring straight at him. Lamb collapsed to his knees, clutching the rosary. His lips moved desperately in a broken prayer. A faint glow seeped from the beads. And suddenly, silence. Dash dash dash. The room was still, only his ragged breaths filled the air. But when his light trembled over the shattered plank, he saw a dark liquid dripping onto the floorboards. Thick, red, glistening in the beam. Not water, blood. Chapter 4, Figures in the Mist. The sky was heavy and grey. Morning had come. The rain ceased, but a dense blanket of fog still suffocated the entire village, thick and white as burial shrouds. Lamb awoke after a night of torment. His body ached with exhaustion. His mind swam in dizziness. For a fleeting moment, he prayed that it had all been a nightmare. But the dark stain on the floor remained, blood, dried and blackened. He clutched the broken rosary tightly in his hand, its beads cold and lifeless. Every step he took, he felt eyes following him, unseen but watching. He couldn't bear to remain in the house any longer. Dash dash dash. Outside, the brick path gleamed with water, broken and uneven. He followed it desperately, searching for any way out. Yet no matter which path he chose, down the main road, through a narrow alley, past a broken bamboo fence, every trail led him back to the same place. The abandoned house. A curse. A maze. The village was a prison with no exit. Dash dash dash. Then he heard it, footsteps. Clop, clop, clop. The sound of wooden clogs striking wet stone. He spun around. Through the fog, a small figure appeared. A girl, no older than 10, her long hair draped down, a white dress stained with age and ash. She stood motionless, only a few meters away. Lamb's breath caught. Then her voice, soft and sweet, rang out. Brother, will you play with me? Dash dash dash. His heart stopped. That voice, it was the same that had whispered from beneath the floor last night. Terror clawed at his chest. He turned and hurried away, his steps quickening, but soon another figure emerged. A man, bent beneath a bundle of firewood, trudged slowly across the lane. Relief surged. Lamb cried out, Mister, please, show me the way out. The man didn't turn, didn't even pause. Lamb ran forward, desperate, and in an instant, the figure crumbled into ashes, scattering on the damp stones. The acrid stench of burning wood filled the air. Dash dash dash. Lamb staggered back, bile rising in his throat. Then they began to appear. All around him, in the swirling mist, the villagers. An old man leaning on a cane, a young mother cradling her child, children skipping, their laughter warped and hollow, figures half seen, flickering in and out of sight like shadows in smoke. They multiplied, surrounding him, their laughter warped into static, their chatter echoing as if from beneath the earth. And then he saw their faces. All of them white, blistered, scarred with burns, eyes blank and empty. Dash dash dash. They closed in, slow and steady, forming a silent circle around him. The fog grew denser, pressing on his lungs. His ears rang with the weight of silence. And then, a hand touched his shoulder. Cold as ice, smelling of smoke. Lamb turned. A child's face hovered inches away. Half its skin melted, eyes glowing white, its mouth stretched open in a jagged, grotesque smile. Stay with us. Dash dash dash. Lamb screamed and bolted, crashing through the fog. His breath tore in gasps. His legs burned, but no matter how fast he ran, the sound of footsteps lingered behind him, steady, patient, like hunters driving prey into a trap. He stumbled at last against a burnt, twisted tree at the edge of the lane. The fog shifted slightly, and he saw it, a small alley. At its end, a faint yellow glow shone through a half-open door. And in that glow, stood the blind old woman, waiting. Chapter 5, The Blind Woman. The door creaked open, spilling a faint, flickering glow from a small oil lamp. Inside the cramped hut, the blind old woman sat hunched in a wooden chair. Her frail body curved like a brittle branch ready to snap. Her white, milky eyes stared into the void. Yet Lamb felt as though they pierced straight through him. He stumbled in, slamming the door behind him. His chest heaved, sweat and rain dripping from his face. "Grandmother, outside, they're not people, they keep watching me. Following me." The old woman did not look surprised. She only tilted her head, her voice rasping like dry leaves. "You've seen them, then your fate is sealed." Lamb froze. "Seen who? What are they? What is this place?" The woman reached shakily across the table, finding a rosary half burned and cracked. She ran her fingers along the beads, lips moving as though in prayer. Only after a long silence did she speak again. "This village died long ago. Not a soul remains alive here, only the cursed dead." Her words sank like stones in his chest. He remembered the charred walls, the smell of smoke, the ashes drifting in the mist. "All dead?" His voice trembled. "Then those I saw." She nodded. "Spirits. But not ordinary ones. They are trapped, unable to move on, bound by a curse that chains them here. Every soul waits for someone new to take their place." The room seemed to grow smaller, the shadows pressing closer. The lamp sputtered, painting deep lines across her wrinkled face, making her look more corpse than living. Lamb's voice cracked. "Why? Who cursed this place?" Her lips quivered, bleeding where they split. "Not by chance. By the chief of this village. He lusted for immortality. He betrayed his own people. On the night of fire, he fed their souls to the flame." Her voice shook, as if reliving the nightmare. "The fire devoured everything. Their screams still echo, but death was not release, only chains. Their ashes wander still, bound to this soil forever." Lamb's hand clenched the rosary she had given him earlier. The beads felt cold, fragile, as though they might crumble. "And me, what will happen to me?" The blind woman raised her head, her empty eyes seeming to stare directly into his soul. For the first time, her voice carried a weight like final judgment. "No one leaves this place. Every stranger who wanders here shares the same fate. 3 nights, then gone." "Gone?" Lamb whispered, throat dry. She nodded, her voice a low dirge. "The first night, you hear the voices. The second, you see their faces. And the third night, you become one of them." A gust of cold wind rattled through the cracks, making the lamp flare weakly. Its flame danced across her arms, revealing deep, blackened scars, burn marks, etched into her flesh like brands. Lamb staggered back. You too." The old woman gave a hoarse laugh, bitter and broken. "I've been here far too long. My soul is already bound. But you are still alive. And because of that, they will not stop until you are theirs." With trembling hands, she pressed the half-burned rosary into his palm. Her voice turned urgent. "Keep this close. It cannot save you, but it may hold them back, for a time. And remember, if you hear them call your name, do not answer, or you'll belong to them instantly." At that moment, the oil lamp flickered violently, then died. Darkness consumed the room, and in that suffocating dark, a whisper brushed against Lamb's ear. "Lamb, oh Lamb." Chapter 6, The Crimson Curse. The lamp had gone out. Darkness swallowed everything. Lamb stood frozen, clutching the rosary, every breath trembling. Then the whispers came, weaving through the silence like serpents. "Lamb, oh, Lamb, open the door for me. I'm so cold. Let me in." The voices slid through the walls, seeping into his skull. It didn't matter if he covered his ears, they pierced straight into his mind. He pressed his back against the wall, muttering frantically, Don't answer, don't answer." But the voices grew louder, closer, then bang. The wooden door shuddered violently. Bang, bang. Each strike echoed like thunder, shaking dust from the ceiling. Then silence. The silence was worse than the pounding. Lamb held his breath. A faint click, click, crept through the room. His blood turned to ice. The lock was turning by itself. The door creaked open slowly. Mist spilled inside, curling across the floor like pale smoke. And standing in the doorway was a young woman. Her hair hung loose, covering half her face. Her white dress was scorched black at the chest, stained with soot. She tilted her head, speaking in a gentle, melodic voice. "Why didn't you open for me?" Lamb's pulse roared in his ears. He remembered the warning. Do not answer when they call your name. He gripped the rosary tighter, shaking, but she stepped forward, every footfall left behind a wet crimson stain, as though she were dripping blood with each step. Wind tossed her hair aside, and his stomach lurched. Half her face was blackened, melted by fire, the skin blistered and peeled, exposing raw flesh beneath. Her eyes glowed white, unblinking. She smiled, her mouth tore open wider, stretching to her ear. Look at me, Lamb. Dash dash dash. The flashlight slipped from his hands, clattering to the floor. Its beam spun wildly, illuminating her face in jerking flashes. Each time the light flickered, she changed. A beautiful young woman, a charred corpse, a grinning skull with hollow sockets. The house shuddered, the walls glowed faintly, black burn marks writhing like veins. Smoke seeped from the cracks. In the flickering firelight, Lamb suddenly saw himself standing not in a room, but in a burning village. Flames roared around him, shadows of men, women, children ran screaming, their bodies ablaze. The air was filled with shrieks, with the crack of collapsing beams. The fire licked at his skin, burning, choking. Dash dash dash. No, he screamed, clutching the rosary with both hands. A weak light flared from the beads, white and fragile, but enough to slice through the vision. The fire vanished. The woman was gone. He was back in the dark, moldy room, chest heaving, lungs aching. Dash dash dash. He dropped to his knees, trembling, the broken rosary beads digging into his palm. The whispers were gone, only the smell of smoke lingered in the air. But he knew now, without a doubt, the second night had ended. And when the third night came, there would be no escape. Chapter 7, The Blood Lake Behind the Temple. After the horrors of the second night, sleep was impossible. Lamb sat huddled in the corner, body weak, spirit frayed. The broken rosary lay cold in his palm. He knew he could not survive the third night by hiding. He needed answers. At dawn, if dawn even existed in this shrouded world, he forced himself outside. The mist clung heavier than ever, the air thick with the bitter stench of ash. Step after step, he followed a crumbling stone path winding up the hillside behind the village. Dash dash dash. At its end stood a temple, long abandoned, its skeleton blackened by fire. The roof had collapsed, beams jutting upward like the ribs of a corpse. Statues of the Buddha lay shattered, heads broken, eyes melted into grotesque hollows. Inside the charred sanctuary, his flashlight brushed across the wall, where faint remnants of a mural remained. It showed a village engulfed in fire. Countless villagers raised their arms, mouths gaping in silent screams. And at the edge of the painting stood a tall figure in ritual robes, holding a crimson talisman. His face was gone, scorched away, but his stance was proud, separate from the burning crowd. Beneath the mural, the stone wall bore the imprint of black handprints, layered over each other, hundreds deep, as though countless people had clawed here, begging for salvation in their last moments. A chill gnawed through Lamb's bones. Dash dash dash. Beyond the temple ruins stretched a clearing, and there he saw it, a lake. But the water was no water. The surface glowed a deep crimson red, thick and murky. No ripples stirred it, yet its stagnant skin glistened as though alive. The stench hit him then, iron, rot, blood. His legs weakened, but he crawled to the edge, shining his flashlight across the water, and screamed. Beneath the red surface, countless faces floated, pale, distorted, mouths stretched open in endless screams. White eyes rolled upward, staring at him through the liquid veil. Some pressed closer to the surface, their lips moving soundlessly. Dash dash dash. Then the whispers began. We cannot rest. We cannot leave. The lake boiled suddenly, crimson waves churned, and hands, charred, blistered, shot up, reaching, clawing, desperate to drag him into the depths. Lamb stumbled backward, clutching the broken rosary. The beads glowed faintly, their light forcing the hands to shudder. Retreat, sinking slowly back beneath the surface. The water stilled, but the faces remained. Dash dash dash. Something drifted across the lake then, carried by no current, as if pushed toward him by unseen will. A burnt journal, its cover blackened, edges singed, yet the pages within remained. Lamb snatched it with shaking hands. Words scrawled in blood-red ink screamed at him from the paper. He betrayed us. The chief sold our souls for fire. None may leave. None may rest. The final page was torn, jagged, Yet 3 words remained, etched deep into the parchment. The third night. The mist thickened. From the far side of the lake, figures emerged, one by one, dozens, hundreds. Villages with pale, burnt faces, empty eyes, their bodies still blistered from fire. They stood silently at the water's edge, staring straight at him. None moved, none spoke. They only watched, waiting. Chapter 8. The second night. The sun vanished early behind the fog. No stars, no moon, only a white void pressing down on the village like a burial shroud. The stillness was absolute, suffocating. Lamb retreated once more into the abandoned house. Though the place haunted him, it was the only shelter he had. His hands gripped the burnt journal tight. Each frantic line etched by the lost traveler before him pulsed in his skull. The third night, don't let it come. But there was no stopping it. Darkness fell, heavy as stone. He sat on the floor, back against the wall, broken rosary beads scattered at his side. His flashlight flickered, casting weak circles of yellow across the blackened room. At first, there was only silence. Then it began. Knock, knock, knock. Not just from beneath the floor this time. The sound echoed everywhere, walls, ceiling, doors, until the house itself seemed to throb with it. The flashlight trembled in his grip. On the ceiling above, footprints appeared, black, burnt imprints, each step sinking into the wood. Slowly, deliberately, they crept across the beams. Lamb raised the light, his breath caught in his throat. A face peered down at him, eyes white and glowing, lips torn into a grin stretched too wide. The figure crawled upside down, moving like a spider across the ceiling. No, Lamb screamed, hurling himself back. Crash. The window shattered open, wind and fog blasted inside, carrying with them shapes. Dozens of villagers, charred, pale, smiling grotesquely, crowded at the frame. Their empty eyes locked on him. For a heartbeat, they only watched. Then they stepped forward, pouring into the room. The air filled with sound. Laughter, sobbing, whispers, distorted like voices warped underwater. The pounding grew louder, like a drumbeat of the dead. From the corner, something scuttled into the light, a child. Its limbs bent at impossible angles. Its body scorched black, yet its face still wore a broken smile. Brother Lamb, it hissed. Voice sweet and warped. Play with me. It crawled toward him, fingers clawing across the wood, leaving trails of blood. Lamb snatched the last intact piece of his rosary and hurled it. The beads struck the child's chest. A burst of white light exploded. The creature shrieked, body convulsing before collapsing into ash. But at once the horde surged forward, all of them at once. Burnt faces pressed through the window. Pale hands reached from the floorboards, the walls, even the ceiling, clutching at him, their voices united in a hollow chant. Stay with us, stay with us. The flashlight sputtered, and died. Darkness crushed him, only faint light flickered from the shattered rosary. Illuminating faces pressed inches from his own. Empty eyes, smiles torn wide. Stay with us, they whispered. Breath cold on his skin. Lamb screamed until his throat tore. And then, silence. The room was empty again. Only the broken rosary lay on the floor, cracked into useless pieces. Its light was gone, and with it, his last hope. Chapter 9. The Journal of the Lost. After the nightmare of the second night, Lamb sat trembling on the floor, every muscle limp. His breath came ragged, his skin drenched in sweat. The rosary was shattered, beads scattered like droplets of dried blood. The faint glow that once held back the dead was gone. Outside the cracked window, fog pressed thick against the glass. From time to time, a pale face drifted close, eyes blank, lips twisting into a smile. Before fading away again, Lamb turned his face, refusing to look. He knew, if the third night came, he was doomed, unless he found another way. He searched the house desperately. In a rotting wardrobe, behind splintered planks, he found a small chest blackened by fire. Its lock was rusted, but weak. With one strike of his knife, it broke. Inside was a journal, charred at the edges, reeking of ash and decay. His hands shook as he opened it. The first pages were legible, written in frantic, uneven script. Day 1. I stumbled upon this village. The people are strange, quiet, they do not speak to me. Yet I see them moving about. I thought I was lucky to find shelter. Day 2. Last night, I heard knocking under the floor. A voice called my name, but I never told anyone my name. This morning, I saw children playing in the alley. When I approached, they vanished. Only ashes remained on the ground. Day 3. I see them now. They are not alive. None of them are. The whole village burned long ago. They are ashes. Cursed to wander here. I tried to leave, but every road leads back to the same place. The gate is a trap. Dash dash dash. The ink on the next page was smeared. Letters crooked and shaking, as if written in terror. Tonight, they are everywhere. Laughing, crying, screaming. I can't hold out much longer. If you find this journal, remember, do not answer when they call your name. And never, ever stay until the third night. The final page was blank, except for a burnt handprint. Black and seared deep into the paper, as though the writer had been dragged into the flames mid-sentence. Dash dash dash. Lamb's breath quickened. His hands went numb. He was not the first. Someone had come before him, and perished here. Their warning had been too late. He swallowed hard, whispering into the silence. The third night, the end. Dash dash dash. Then, from the fog outside, something stirred. A figure stood beyond the window, tall, gaunt, unmoving, not like the others. Its body was cloaked in rags of burnt cloth. A charred staff clenched in one hand. The mist hid its face, all except for its eyes. They glowed a deep, burning red. Lamb's chest seized. His breath stopped. And inside his skull, a voice thundered, low and guttural, scraping like stone. On the third night, you will be mine. Chapter 10. The third night. The mist never lifted. All day it clung to the village. Thick as smoke, choking the air. No sunlight pierced it. Time itself seemed broken. Morning, afternoon, evening all blurred into the same pale, suffocating haze. Lamb sat in the ruined house, back pressed to the wall, the burnt journal heavy in his lap. Every word he had read screamed in his head. The third night, don't let it come. But he could feel it. The third night was already here. Dash dash dash. When the last trace of light died, the village stirred. It began with a sound. Knock, knock, knock. Not just one door, not just one wall. The sound reverberated across the whole village, like the heartbeat of something vast and dead. Then came the footsteps. Dozens, hundreds, shuffling, dragging, echoing against the stone paths. Lamb crept to the window, and his stomach turned to ice. From the fog, they came. Every villager he had glimpsed before. Charred faces, blank eyes, children, elders, mothers, men, all pale, twisted, shuffling in unison. A funeral procession, a march of the damned. Dash dash dash. They gathered in the square, moving in eerie harmony, circling as though preparing a ritual. And then, in a single voice, they began to whisper, "Stay with us, stay with us." The chant rose, hundreds of mouths moving together, their tones fractured and inhuman. The sound rattled the glass, made his ears bleed. The door burst open. They flooded inside. Dash dash dash. Lamb screamed, clutching the broken rosary, but its light was gone. Dozens of hands clawed at him, dragging him toward the square. He struggled, kicking, tearing free, until at last he stumbled out into the open air, and froze. In the center of the square burned a pillar of crimson flame. And within that flame stood the chief. Dash dash dash. His figure was taller than any man, body cloaked in tattered robes. His skin was black, cracked, fire glowing through the fissures. His eyes blazed red, brighter than the fire itself. In one hand he held a staff, blackened wood still smoldering, with every strike of the staff against the earth. The fire roared higher. He raised it now, his laughter booming like thunder. "You see them, boy, they belong to me, and soon, so will you." The ground trembled, the air burned. Dash dash dash. The villagers screamed, not with fear but with worship. Their blank eyes turned toward the chief as their voices rose in a dreadful chorus. "Stay with us, stay with us." Lamb fell to his knees, ears ringing, head splitting, his vision blurred as the chant swallowed him. The chief stepped closer, his charred feet leaving trails of ash. He leaned down, his mouth beside Lamb's ear, his breath reeking of blood and smoke, and whispered, "The third night ends with you." Chapter 11. The Secret of the Mountain. The square shook with fire and screams. Lamb was on his knees, breath ragged, vision blurring from the heat. The crimson flames twisted higher, curling like serpents, while the villagers wailed in unison. Then, COC, COC, COC. The sound of a wooden stick striking the ground echoed through the chaos. The fire faltered, the crowd of spirits hissed, retreating slightly, eyes flickering uneasily. From the fog emerged the blind old woman. Her hair was wild and white, her body hunched, one hand gripping her cane. Though her eyes were pale and useless, she walked with strange certainty, as if she saw more clearly than anyone else. Dash dash dash. Her voice, hoarse but firm, cut through the screams. Enough, traitor, how long will you bind him to your curse? The chief snarled, his staff burning brighter. You dare call me traitor? It was you who opened the gate. You who carried the talisman to the altar. Without you, none of this would have begun. His laughter was bitter, cruel, echoing like a death knell. Dash dash dash. Lamb's blood ran cold. He turned to the old woman, his voice trembling. Is it true? You betrayed them? Her face twisted with agony. She raised her scarred hands, showing blackened flesh, burned long ago. Her milky eyes glistened with tears. Yes, it was me. I thought I was saving them. The village was drowning in sickness, in hunger. He promised salvation. He told me the ritual would cleanse us all. I believed him. Her voice cracked into a sob. But when I lit the fire, it devoured them, men, women, children, screaming as they burned. And I was cursed to remain blind. Trapped here, chained with the rest. Dash dash dash. She lifted her cane, pointing past the village square. Beyond the mist loomed the shadow of the mountain. Its peak glowed faintly red, as if fire still smoldered beneath the earth. There, she rasped, on the summit lies the altar. That is where he sealed the pact, where the curse was carved in blood. Destroy it, and perhaps the chain will break. Dash dash dash. The chief roared, slamming his staff into the ground. Crimson fire exploded. The villagers howled, their empty eyes burning brighter. No, the altar is eternal. The pact is eternal. None leave here. None are free. They belong to me, all of them. His voice thundered across the square. The flames twisted skyward, and the spirits shrieked with him. Dash dash dash. The old woman staggered closer to Lamb, gripping his arm with shaking, burned fingers. Her voice lowered to a desperate whisper. You cannot outrun them. You cannot fight them all. Your only chance is to climb the mountain, to end it where it began. Dash dash dash. Lamb stared at her, his heart pounded, terror gnawed at every nerve, but deep in his chest, a spark of resolve flickered. The third night was here. The chief's curse closed in from every side. If he ran, he would die. If he fought, he would be consumed. The only path left was upward, toward the mountain's heart, where the fire first began. Dash dash dash. He clenched his fists around the burnt journal, then turned. Without another word, he sprinted into the mist, toward the looming red glow at the summit. Behind him, the villagers screamed. The chief roared his fury. The flames chased at his heels. But Lamb did not stop. On the mountain's peak, the fire awaited, red, pulsing, alive, and with it, the truth. Chapter 12, The Soul's Revenge. The mountain path was narrow, steep, and blanketed with ash. Every step Lamb took sank into the grey dust, releasing the stench of burnt flesh, as though he was walking on the remains of the dead. The fog grew thicker the higher he climbed, yet within it pulsed a faint, ominous glow, red, like coals buried beneath the earth. Breathing in the darkness, the wind howled, carrying with it the sound of wailing, shrill and broken, like hundreds of throats crying at once. Lamb gritted his teeth, forcing himself upward. Dash dash dash. At last he reached the summit. There it stood, the altar. A massive slab of blackened stone, cracked and scarred, its surface etched with countless glowing sigils. They pulsed faintly, like veins of fire beneath the rock. All around the altar stood figures. Hundreds of villagers, men, women, children, their eyes blank, their faces blistered, their bodies scorched by fire. They stood shoulder to shoulder, unmoving, but when Lamb appeared, their heads turned in unison to face him. The silence was unbearable. Then a sound split it, slow footsteps. Dash dash dash. From the altar rose the chief. His body was tall, skeletal, wrapped in tattered robes of ash. His flesh was black and cracked, embers glowing between fissures. In his charred hands, He carried a staff crowned with flame. His eyes burned brighter than the fire itself. You came, he said, his voice deep and hollow, as if echoing from a pit beneath the earth. You came to take their place. Dash dash dash. Lam's throat was dry, his legs trembling, but he shouted, Why did you betray them? Your own people. The chief laughed, a horrible sound that rattled the stones. They were weak, sick, dying. I chose the only path. I offered them to the red fire, and in return, I endure forever. He swept his staff across the sky, and the flames roared higher. I am the survivor, they are fuel, and you, your soul will seal the pact once more. Dash dash dash. The villagers moaned. A wave of wails, grief-stricken and furious, burst from their throats. Their faces twisted, their eyes glared at the chief with hatred. But none could move. The altar bound them. Then the ground shook. The sigils on the stone blazed brighter. Crimson fire coiled upward, spiraling into a storm. Lam was thrown back, skin burning from the heat. His ears rang with the voices of the dead. Give us back our lives. Give us back our lives. Dash dash dash. From the mass of villagers, shapes began to peel away. Souls. They drifted forward, faces white, mouths screaming, hands reaching, dozens, hundreds, surging toward him. The air filled with the stench of ash, with the sound of nails clawing against stone. Lam staggered to his feet, clutching the burnt journal to his chest. He screamed, hurling it down. The pages burst into flame, spinning in a circle of light. For an instant, the souls shrieked, recoiling from its glow. Dash dash dash. The chief roared. His staff slammed against the altar, splitting the stone with a deafening crack. Fire erupted, a crimson tornado spiraling into the sky. The ground trembled violently, ash and sparks rained down. The villagers wailed as one, their cries shaking the mountain. The horde of souls surged again, clawing toward Lam, their mouths stretching wide, voices tearing at his mind. He stood trapped in their midst, the fire on one side, the sea of the dead on the other. His skin burned, his ears bled, his body trembled, but in his heart, one thought rang clear: destroy the altar, or be lost forever. Chapter 13, The Traitor in the Village. The mountain shook as the altar blazed, spewing crimson fire into the sky. The village's wails rolled like thunder, a sea of sorrow and rage. The chief stood tall amidst the storm, staff aflame, laughter booming across the summit. Look at them, they belong to me, all of them. And soon, so will you. He struck the staff again. Fire surged outward, nearly hurling Lam to the ground. Dash dash dash. But through the chaos came another sound, weak, quivering, but steady, the tap of a cane. The blind old woman dragged herself onto the summit, her hair wild, her eyes white and empty. She raised her scarred hands toward the altar. Enough, she rasped. You call him traitor, but the truth is mine to bear. Her body trembled as she collapsed to her knees. Dash dash dash. Lam turned, stunned. What do you mean? The old woman's lips shook. Her milky eyes glistened with tears. She raised her burnt palms for him to see. It was me, she whispered, her voice breaking. I opened the gate. I placed the talisman on the altar. I believed his lies. I thought the ritual would save us from plague and hunger. But instead, I doomed them all. Her words cracked into sobs. The fire consumed everything. Their screams still haunt me. And my punishment, my eyes, my soul, bound here forever. Dash dash dash. The chief's laughter split the night. See, boy, do you hear? I am no traitor. I only took what was offered. She lit the fire, not I. She condemned them. The villagers shrieked, their empty eyes flashing with fury. Their cries grew louder, filling the summit with rage. Traitor, traitor. Dozens of blackened hands rose from the ground, reaching toward the old woman, as if to tear her apart. She fell forward, weeping, her voice barely audible. Yes, it was my sin. And there is only one way to end it now. Dash dash dash. She turned to Lam, her trembling hand grasping his wrist. The altar must be destroyed, but only the blood of the living has the strength to break it. Mine is not enough. Lam recoiled, his voice cracking. You mean, I must sacrifice myself? Her blind eyes fixed on him, empty but pleading. Yes, my sacrifice might wound it, but it will not end. Only yours can set them free. Either you give your life, or the curse endures forever. Dash dash dash. The chief roared with laughter. his burning eyes searing through the night. Do you hear, boy? She offers you up like the rest. So what will it be? Will you die for them? Or will you join them anyway? Screaming in my fire, the villagers wailed louder, the sound of hundreds of voices crying for release. The altar blazed. The sky bled red. Dash dash dash. Lamb stood trembling, caught between the fire and the endless sea of souls. His hands clenched tight, his heart hammered against his ribs. One choice, one final choice. Sacrifice himself to end the curse. Or fight the chief and risk being consumed with the rest. The storm of fire roared. The dead screamed. And the third night neared its final breath. Chapter 14. Escape or Stay Forever. The altar blazed like a wound torn into the sky. Crimson fire coiled upward, scorching the heavens. The villagers' cries merged into one endless scream. Shaking the mountain itself, the chief raised his staff high, his voice booming like thunder. Choose, boy, your blood, or your soul. Either way, you are mine. The blind old woman knelt, her scarred hands trembling, her white eyes streaming with tears. Lamb, it must end here. My blood cannot break it, only yours can. Dash dash dash. Lamb's chest heaved, his mind fractured by fear. Around him, the dead pressed closer, blank eyes, twisted mouths, charred faces grinning as they whispered in unison. Stay with us, stay with us. His vision blurred, the heat scorched his skin. The weight of hundreds of lost souls crushed him. And then, through the roar, he heard the echoes of the journal, the words of the wanderer before him. Do not answer, do not stay until the third night. But it was too late. He was already in the heart of it. Dash dash dash. Lamb's scream tore through the storm. If it ends, then it ends with you. With all his strength, he hurled the burnt journal onto the altar. Boom! The mountain split. The altar cracked open, sigils exploding into flame. A storm of ash and fire consumed the summit. The chief shrieked, his eyes bursting into sparks. His body split, crumbling into cinders that the wind carried away. Dash dash dash. The villagers wailed, not in pain, but in release. Their faces softened, their eyes closing, one by one, their bodies dissolved into drifting ash. Carried skyward like fireflies, the blind old woman wept, smiling faintly through her tears. At last, freedom. Her body withered, crumbling into dust, joining the others in the wind. Dash dash dash. And then, silence. The fire was gone, the fog was gone, only ashes remained. Lamb lay collapsed among them, his breath faint, his eyes fluttered shut, a tired smile frozen on his lips. He had ended it, or so he thought. Dash dash dash. Morning came. The sun broke weakly through the clouds for the first time in years. The village lay empty, silent, lifeless. The gate, long shut, now stood open. Beyond it stretched the road out of the mountains. Dash dash dash. And then, footsteps. A new traveler entered the village. Lost, weary, looking for shelter, he glanced around the ruins. In the center of the square, half buried in ash, he spotted a burnt journal. He picked it up, flipping through brittle, blackened pages. On the very last page, one final line scrawled in blood remained. If you are reading this, leave before the third night.